Hello everyone, this is Ravindra Dundra and welcome to my channel. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about class 10th CBSE chapter number 2 from economics, that is sectors of the Indian economy. In the previous lectures, we have discussed about rising importance of this tertiary sector. What are the main 4 important reasons why tertiary sector is growing day by day. But now in continuation with that, we will discuss about this next topic, that is where are the most of the people employed. Till now we have seen which sector is contributing towards this GDP and what is their share. So if you can see the graph here which shows of two different years, one is 1973 and 74 data as well as 2013 and 14 data. In this share of GDP, if you can see the primary sector as well as tertiary sector, there has been lot of change in these two different sectors. In the 1973 and 74, primary sector was contributing more towards the GDP, whereas in 2013 and 14, here this tertiary sector is contributing more towards the GDP. But whereas if you can see the other graph, what it can show is that it will show the share of employment by three sectors. So in that, if you can see 1973-74 data as well as 2013 and 14 data, what you can observe is that in both of these years data, what it can be understood is that agriculture sector continues to be the largest employer. So what might be the reasons why the similar shift has not taken place in the employment, whereas the shift has taken place in the GDP? So what might be the reasons why still primary sector continues to be the largest employer? Why more number of people are employed in the agriculture? Why? Because you can see not enough jobs were created in secondary and tertiary sector. So this is the main reason why more number of people are still engaged in agriculture sector. Why? It is because number of jobs created in tertiary and secondary sectors were very less. So how we can say that? If we can see the contribution made by the industrial sector over the past years, there has been 9 times increase in this GDP, but the employment increased is only 3%. But if you can take again this tertiary sector, 14 times it contributed or 14 times increased towards the GDP, but when it comes to the employment, only 5 times the employment has been increased in this tertiary sector. So from this, what we can conclude is that more than 50% of the people are still employed by agriculture sector. That means in India, half of the people or even more than half of the people are still engaged in this agriculture. And this, because of this, what is happening? Agriculture is contributing only 1/4 of the GDP. That means more number of people are employed in agriculture, but very less contribution towards the GDP. And secondary and tertiary sector, less number of people are employed, but more GDP they are contributing towards more GDP. So what might be the reasons? Can we think that agriculture sector is producing up to its level since more than 50% of people are employed? Or what are the other reasons why agriculture is unable to contribute more towards the GDP, and why secondary and tertiary sectors are contributing more towards the GDP? What is the problem with this agriculture sector? Why it is contributing only 1/4 of this GDP? So that we will discuss now. What are the reasons why it is contributing only 1/4 of this GDP? What is that main reason? We will see now. Let us discuss about the main reason why agriculture is contributing less towards this GDP. The main reason is that it is workers in the agriculture sector are underemployed. What do you mean by this underemployed? This underemployed can also be known as something like disguised unemployment, which you might have already learned in this 9th class. So let me clarify what is this underemployed. For example, take a small plot of land, maybe 1 hectare of land, and the number of people required to grow any food to work in this field is, suppose, take only 5 members. But if the farmer of this land, the owner of this land, if he is employing 8 members, or for example the entire family, if they are working on this field, means what is happening? The required number of people here are only 5, but here 8 number of people are employed. That means 3 extra members are there even if you can remove these 3 extra members, still you can produce the same output. But by adding these 3 members, we are producing the same output. That means these extra 3 members are underemployed, or they are disguised employed. That means even if you remove that extra 3 members, you can produce the same output. So this is same case is happening in entire India in this agriculture sector. That means all the people in the agriculture sector, they are all underemployed. That means even if you remove them, some of them, there won't be any change in the output. That means without any work or without any extra output is generated from these extra members. For example, as per this, suppose if 5 members are employed, it is producing 100 bags, and suppose if 8 members are employed, it is producing only 100 bags. That means the extra 3 members whoever is employed in this field, they are not generating any extra output. That means the entire agriculture sector is facing this similar kind of problem, where the extra number of people who are engaged in this agriculture sector, they are not producing extra amount of output. So that is why we say the people in the agriculture sector are underemployed. And this problem is not only with the primary sector, it is also there with this other sectors. In other sector also you can see people are underemployed. For example, take this painters, plumbers, repair persons, etc., etc. In the cities, in urban areas, we can find this underemployment even in secondary and tertiary sectors. But the more number of underemployed people can be found in this agriculture sector, and this is the main reason why agriculture is contributing less towards the GDP. Then what is the solution? How to create more employment? What is the best method by which we can create this more employment? Is that the first and foremost thing is that government can provide irrigation facilities by constructing any dam as well as canals. How this can create this employment? To construct a dam, people are required, therefore we can provide the employment. And to construct the canals, it also requires people, so there also employment is generated. And once the dams and canals are constructed, the water can be irrigated to the fields or to the crops, which will also generate more output, more number of people can be employed. So like this, it is something like a chain of employment, where once government can invest money in providing these irrigation facilities, it can generate lot of employment. At the same time, we can take government should also provide storage facilities and transportation facilities. Once irrigation facilities are provided, the crop getting more output, and where we can use that more output, we cannot consume that entire output, we need to store that or we need to sell it in the market. For that, what we require transport facilities, as well as we also require storage facilities. Therefore, government, if government invests money in providing storage and transportation facilities, there also we can create this employment. How? We can take by providing storage, we are creating employment. You are constructing a building, cold storage, which involves in this some labor are required in constructing this. At the same time, transportation, you take, some people are required to transport goods from one place to other place. So like this, here also some kind of employment is generated. Then the other thing is that if the local banks can provide loans at a low rate of interest, usually banks provide loans, but if they provide the loans at a cheaper rate of interest to the farmers, means the farmers can buy the fertilizers or pesticides or even any other material required for the farming, they'll buy and they'll produce more and more. So like this, if we can provide all these facilities, we can actually improve this employment in the agriculture sector. At the same time, we can also provide this apart from employment, we can also improve the GDP, or you can say production in this agriculture sector. So these are some of the ways how we can improve the employment as well as output in this agriculture sector. One is, we can say, by providing these dams or transportation or cold storage, or you can say this providing loans at a cheaper rate of interest. So now next what we will see is that how we can create more employment in this semi-rural areas, or you can say almost city areas, where how we can create this more employment in these areas. Let us discuss about how to create employment in these semi rural areas. So the first and very important way how we can create this employment is that here identifying and promoting these industries. For example, usually in rural areas farmers produce arhar, or you can also call it as tur dal, and if you can set up a dal mill, or for example you take people produce this paddy, if you can keep a rice mill, so like this we can set up, if we can set up small scale industries or those industries which will support the farmers, this also can create this employment in this agriculture sector, especially in rural areas. How it is that, for example, farmer producing paddy, then he can go to this rice mill, he can take it, he can change it into rice, or he can take arahar, he can convert it into a dal mill, so he can convert it into a dal. So like this we can set up the industries which are related to this agriculture, which can also create this employment. Then the next thing is that opening a cold storage. What is this cold storage? Is that, for example, people are producing wheat, paddy or potatoes, but the market price is not very good, therefore they can store this in the cold storage, and after some time whenever they get good price they can sell it in the market. So by opening the cold storage, we are creating some employment for construction of that buildings, or the people who involved who work in that for cold storage will also get employment. Then the other thing is that setting up honey collection centers. For example, those people in rural areas who are living very close to the forests, they can collect the honey from the forest and they can sell it in these honey collecting centers, which is also the other way to create this employment. Then after from this we can also set up this something known as food processing industries. What do you mean by this food processing industries? That those industries which take this items, raw material from agriculture, and they'll transform into like food items. For example, take potato. By using potato we can take the famous chips which you eat, potato chips can be made in the industries. Then we can also take this tomato. What we can do with the tomatoes? We can make it into tomato ketchup. So like this, if we can set up the food processing industries, it can also create some kind of employment. So these are some of the ways in which we can create the employment in this semi rural areas. And apart from that, we can also create the employment in this educational sector. How we can create is that in India, the people who belongs to the age group from 5 to 29, there are almost 60% are there in this country. That means out of 130 crores, more than 70 crores of population coming under this age group, that is from 5 to 29 age. But in this age group, only 51% of the people are attending the schools or colleges. That means only 35 or 36 crore population they are attending in these schools and other colleges. Then if we can improve this educational sector, that means we can, by constructing these educational institutions, schools, buildings, we can create more employment. How? By construction of the buildings we can create employment, by appointing the teachers we can create the employment, or we can also create by appointing non-teaching staff or ayas, workers, whoever it may be. Simply by creating the educational institutions or by constructing the educational institutions, we can create more employment. So a survey conducted by this Niti Ayog, once upon a time we used to call it as this planning commission. Now this planning commission is replaced by something known as Niti Ayog, National Institution for Transforming India, which the survey conducted by this Niti Ayog, what it says is that in the education sector alone we can create more than 20 lakh jobs, because by setting up this what is that, construction of buildings, we can create more and more employment. Teachers, wardens or workers, building construction workers. So like this we can create more than 20 lakh jobs in this education sector itself. Not only that, we can also improve this employment in the health sector. How? If we can construct a hospital, we require labor, doctors, nurse, equipment, labor, cleaners, etc. etc. We can also create employment in this health sector. So apart from these semi-rural areas and rural areas, we can also create this employment in urban areas in different ways, by setting up educational institutions, by constructing hospitals or improving more hospitals. Then at the same time, the states also can create more and more employment. How we can create is that by improving this tourism. So if we can improve this tourism process, we can actually create more than 35 lakhs of jobs can be created within tourism sector itself. Why? Because this nowadays this tourism is getting more popularity, and if different states in the country, if they focus on this tourism sector, means they can create more and more employment in this different sector, in this tourism sector. So these are some of the methods or ways where we can create this employment in different sectors or in different areas, in agriculture, industrial, as well as tertiary sectors, or we can also classify according to these rural areas as well as urban areas. We can create employment by following these methods or these steps. So till now we have discussed about how to create this employment. In the next lecture we will discuss about the particular right given by the constitution, that is right to work, and what are its features. In the next lecture we will discuss about this right to work. Thank you.